welcome back to another episode of the Millennial Girls podcast, episode number 19. I'm Racquel and
I'm Natasha.
And we have a very, very special guest today. Host of Billboard, all of their digital stuff. And you've probably seen her on Instagram, on red carpet. She's killing it in LA, per usual. Well, in quarantine. We're doing what we can. Chelsea Briggs, thanks for being on this episode.
Welcome.
Oh, well, hey, thanks for having me, you guys. This is so fun. It already took us so much time to figure out the technical stuff. So I'm I just feel like this is going to be a really good episode because we earned it.
I wanted to have Chelsea on this episode because I've been thinking a lot lately about this one topic and basically loving yourself, self-love. I don't know why. I've just had a bunch of different friends, I think, in quarantine we're all, not in the best mental space. So yeah. I think everyone's sitting here really thinking about different issues that they have with themselves, whether it be, body image issues or just mental, issues with staying sane at home.
A human?
Yeah, being a human being.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think especially being in the industry that we're in, it's people think that we have everything figured out, right? Like they see people on Instagram living their best life, and we've talked about social media in past episodes, but I don't know, I think I've really realized, especially in quarantine, like my friends will text me pictures, I'll text them pictures. Should I post this? Should I change something? I don't like how this looks. I don't like how I look. And that really is something that plays into your just psyche.
Oh my gosh, totally.
I don't know why it's taken this long. Again, maybe it's because I'm sitting at home, don't have much to do. And it really made me think about this topic. I even texted Natasha and I was like, I really want to do an episode on this because people don't really talk about it unless you're doing motivational speeches or listening to any of that stuff. So Chelsea, just being someone who's in the spotlight on camera, what do you really just have to say to, I don't know, whether it be younger girls or just girls who aren't even happy with themselves right now?
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head where it's right now we have so much time on our hands to just think about things, and we're constantly scrolling on social media, which obviously makes it so much worse. And I don't know about for you, and I feel like this might be why you're saying, oh, I'm just dealing with it now, because we're workaholics, right? Mm-hmm. We're boss babes. Our whole entire lives, we've been hustle. And for the first time, in the last, a few months of quarantine, or no, it's been 6 months now, which is wild. I would wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety more than ever. And I found myself anxious about these things, about insecurities and things bubbling to the surface. And I'm like, oh, you know what? This is actually an insecurity from 4 or 5 years ago, but I haven't dealt with it because I've been distracting myself with work. And so for me, more than ever, this time has been so valuable just in kind of coping with whatever I'm going on and dealing with my mental health has been quarantine. I can't even tell you the time that I put into just these self-help books and meditating and yoga and everything. It's now more than ever. And so I think that to answer your question, Racquel, I think that's why you're probably feeling it more now, is because we don't have the distractions that we've always had before.
Exactly.
I think for me, I think it's just that. It's I've really been kind of digging into getting to know myself. And look, I've had crazy struggles with insecurities and loving myself. And always. And the funny thing is, I think they've even gotten worse as I've gotten older. And I think it is because of social media. And I think, it is because we're constantly on our phones. As you get older, being a female in the industry, you're I'm aging. And am I aging out? There's just things that you're totally are just heightened. And I think, I guess my advice to people, it's to girls that are going through it, it's I think just knowing that we're all feeling the same way. That's huge for me, knowing that you're feeling it and I'm feeling it. And I think it's just being okay with that first off, and then just getting to know yourself. For me, it's figuring out ways to really nourish my mind, nourish my body. Meditating's been huge for me. I don't know do you guys do any meditating at all?
Yes.
I don't do meditation, but I have this anxiety thing I do. It's on the Calm app. It's not exactly meditation, but it's kind of in between the two. It's weird.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it works.
But I think the more time you just sit with yourself, it's like it helps just kind of get into your head. Like you're like learning what are sort of like these inner monsters, like where is it coming from? I think for me that's been big. It's like tying something back, like an insecurity about my nose, you know, like, and I tie it back to like, oh, I remember when I was in elementary school, like this kid made fun of me, and so it's something that's like stuck with me my whole life. So I think like kind of pinpointing where it comes from, and then kind of like being okay with letting that go, and sort of like, I don't know, I think that that's helped me a lot.
So in that case, like using that as an example, what did you do to let it go? Or even to just, whether it's embrace it, whether to, you know, really understand yourself or be okay with it. What did you do to get there?
So forgiving, like it sounds so like deep, but like, okay, the little boy that like made fun of me, like who knows what he had going on at the time, like kind of just like forgiving it and like letting it go and just say, okay, maybe like my nose is big, or maybe my body isn't the type of how I want it to be, but at the end of the day, like you have to be nice to yourself. You have to, like, we are all we have. You have to be kind to yourself. And if you're not kind to yourself, no one else is going to necessarily be. You have to kind of lead by that example. So I think for me, it was just, I think becoming aware of where it came from was big. And then sort of just being like, Chelsea, you were 8 years old when that happened. Like, let it go. And then maybe journal about it. I think like journaling about it, and then just sort of filling your mind with like, with reading books where it's all about, you know, just embracing yourself. I think that's helped me a lot too.
No,
Isn't
for
it
sure.
so interesting that we remember things from when we're like 8 years old, something
my
like
gosh.
that? Even I'm gonna bring up this story. I don't think I said it on the podcast yet, but me and Natasha were at a party during Super Bowl. And we ran into this girl I used to dance with. And I was that awkward braces, glasses girl until like senior year of high school, you know?
We all had those moments, girl.
It was, and I was so skinny from like dance. I danced so much. So I was literally like 90 pounds senior year of high school. Like it was a look. It was a vibe. But I hadn't seen her probably since like senior year of high school. And she was a little intoxicated and came up to me and said, "Oh my God, like you really hit your prime now, like later."
Oh gosh, you're like, thanks.
Oh my God.
and Natasha, every time I told Natasha, or Natasha, did you hear it or did I tell you after? I don't remember.
No,
but
you had to repeat it to me because I was like, "What's going on? Who's this? What Diplo?"
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, right. And I told her, and Natasha was like jaw dropped open, and she obviously didn't mean it in a malicious way, but isn't it just, first of all, crazy that people think that like your prime and whatever? And first of all, I'm glad my prime is now and not when I was 16, because
100%.
that would
2000%.
not be good for our jobs being on camera. But it's just that I think about that comment a lot, just because the fact that we even think like that is so interesting, and is why people don't have self-love. And that plays into such a big part of it. And
and the fact that we hold on to something for so long, almost not even knowing that we're doing that. So like you said, Chelsea, like holding on to it, now that you had the time to reflect, you're like, oh wow, this is something that's been with me for a really long time.
Totally. Yeah. And like, I think that's what you realize too, like how it's like bullying is so awful. It defines you as a character. And I feel like I can't explain to you how many times I've had these conversations with friends that have just dealt with the same sort of things and insecurities that have carried with them into their adulthood. But I think about too, being a teen now and having social media. I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
It's not good. And I taught dance for so long, so I was seeing these like teenagers on their phones, and we'd be in rehearsal and they'd be like, "Oh, I need to lose weight. I need to do this." I'm like, you're 16. You don't need to do that. You, first of all, are ripped and muscular because you dance so much. I would be like, don't say that. Do not. You are perfect. Don't say that. No. It would make me so upset, just because to already see these 14, 15-year-old girls saying that at that age, I mean, it's just gonna get worse as they grow up. And I just saw actually yesterday that in the UK they're thinking of passing a law that you have to put on social media on a picture when it's edited or photoshopped, because it's causing so much mental like issues. I feel like there's obviously different levels of photoshopping, but of course in the article it was like the picture of Khloe Kardashian with the Photoshop face and her in her confessional on Keeping Up with the Kardashians and how different she looked. So obviously, you know, we know it's photoshopped. So I mean, maybe it'll help the situation with all the different mental issues, but I still think if the picture's being posted and people are seeing it, it's still going to have some sort of lasting effect of not real reality, I guess. I don't know.
Totally. I think the one thing too for me that's been tough is like with social media, you're always comparing yourself, and that kind of goes with like seeing the Photoshop. I think like I've definitely, I don't know if you guys have done this, but like had to take time away from social media at certain times. I can tell I'm like getting in my head and I'm just like in a downward spiral, and I'll just be like, okay, I need to take like a week off social media and just sort of like stand back and like, and I think that that's okay to do that, to take that time for yourself.
Oh, 100%. And one of the things that we talk about on the podcast a lot is like kind of clearing, like what I say is it's like clearing out your closet, but social media.
Yes.
The social media way. So those things that might trigger you, like you said, that make you want to take a week off. I mean, obviously if it's work related and you have to follow the profiles, I get it. But if it's not, then don't follow them anymore. If it makes you feel bad about yourself, you know? And I'm sure so many of us, we catch ourselves in those moments where it's just like, why? Like the fact that this picture is making me feel bad about myself. Why am I even following this in the first place? You know? So clean it out. Clean it out, girl. Clean it out.
No, we don't have time for that at all. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's also like just like really embracing too, like what makes you different. And that's like one thing too. I feel like I'm like when I compare myself to like other hosts, and you go on the red carpet, I'm sure you guys can relate. You'll like see these other hosts that are so like eloquent and like walking down the carpet and they just look so perfectly put together, and I'm just like, you're beautiful, like rock on. But I'm like tripping over my shoes and like kind of like you know, an interview I did with Shawn Mendes where I almost like fell off the stage in the middle of an interview. Like this is just who I am. And for a while I was like trying to hide it, or I was like telling my editors to cut those things out. And then it's come to a place where I'm like, you know what? Like that's just like who I am. Like I'm just like awkward at times. I'm not going to be that like, I don't know how to take a picture on a red carpet still this day. I look back at all the pictures and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so awkward. But that's just who I am. And you have to sort of like, I think once you like can face that and just be like, look, this is who I am, I have to just own it. I think people will really respect that too, and you'll feel more comfortable in your own skin.
I feel like we're in an evolution right now, and I'm really excited for what the future holds with social media too, because as much as we punish ourselves for all the stuff that we're talking about, at the same time, I really do feel like we're in a transition now that is going into a positive direction, that just like the law that Racquel brought up, you know, people are going to be forced to say that they're editing. And at that point, you're like, why do I even waste my time doing that? Let me just put out the real thing. Totally. You know what I mean? So it's like, at least we're taking the steps to make that change. And I'm happy about it. Everybody that's listening right now, too, this applies to everybody, not just people, let's say, in the industry, where we can just be ourselves. Like,
totally. Yeah.
And I feel like, just like you said, people are going to respect that now, because I'm more and more seeing on social media, like influencers that have more than 6 million followers or whatever, where it's like, you know, the beginning of my vacation, and they put a beautiful picture of themselves side by side with like their belly kind of hanging out their jeans. And it's like, even though they're still stick thin, they're like trying to embrace like that they put on 5 pounds for their vacation. And it's like, thank you. Like, finally we're being real. And like, I've always just been that person innately. So I'm like excited because I'm like, wow, now I fit, like, quote unquote, fit in with the times.
Totally. Yeah.
Whereas, and I think also, I don't feel the pressure anymore of having to be like so perfect or so modelly now on social media, because I'm not. I mean, sorry. Okay, guys, I'm self-love, right? I'm beautiful, whatever. I love my body. Okay, no, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't feel like I have to be like 6-pack abs anymore to, you know, be popular on social media.
And look, it's great. Like, yeah, exactly. Like self-love. But like, I think it's also really important to acknowledge that like we all have bad days. Like we all have, like I might put up a picture on a red carpet today and like, you know, feel like I look at my best self, but then tomorrow I might be like in bed and can't get out of bed because I'm like I'm going through real emotions. And I think it's just so important to talk about it, like having these conversations. And you're right, I like that we are seeing that transition on social media a lot. Like I think that that's really powerful. And I think this next generation, they're not, they kind of sort of started growing up with the influencers that were like so perfect and like, you know, airbrush, and now they're kind of like, that's not cool to us anymore. It's what's cool to us is like just being who we are. And I think that that's so powerful, and it inspires me too.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see where this transition goes into, for sure. And I mean, it's so crazy for us too, because being on camera, obviously, like I remember growing up and everyone is always like, the camera adds 10 pounds. And so you're so subconsciously focused on that. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely not anymore, but definitely when I worked and in sports and my like whole face and body was on a jumbotron, and that I feel like added 15 pounds, that was always something that I would like look up and be like, oh
yeah.
But now looking back, I'm like, why did I do that? Because it's not like I even looked bad. It's just one of those things that you're trying to be so perfect all the time, and it's not realistic. But then there's obviously the people that are awful to you and say mean things in comments and on videos and whatever. That's a whole different topic. But it's just, we've got to kind of find the balance. And I feel like now as I'm getting older and out of that space, I'm more of like, all right, I took a picture, I'm going to post it. Even my friends are like, wow, you don't even, take a long time to look at it. Or I'm like, I'm just posting it. I'm over it. I need to post.
This is me.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm over it. My hair is in a bun. Like, I don't even care right now. Like, obviously, you post those pictures, like you said, Chelsea, on the red carpet at the Billboard Awards. We're looking so glam. But then I'm like, I'm in a crop sweatshirt and biker shorts today, and that's what I'm going to do.
But you know what is also interesting just to remember is, like, people don't care either. Like, I think I get so caught up sometimes, like, oh my God, they're gonna totally notice that, like, I have a zit on my chin, or like I have no makeup on, I look so ugly, and then like, but I'll see someone post with no makeup on, and I'm just like, she looks beautiful. Like, and I'll like think about it. I'm like, if I would have posted that picture, I probably would have like obsessed about it for like an hour, and then probably not posted it. But like, why? Because she looks beautiful, and like, it's silly that we think so much when at the end of the day, we're consuming so much, and people don't care that much. Like, you should just post what feels genuine, authentic to you, because at the end of the day, like, you don't need to impress anyone.
Totally. And I saw, this is actually so funny, but not funny, but just the fact that I feel like the past week, everything I've been seeing has kind of been centered around self-love. I was actually watching BTS's speech at the UN yesterday. Oh, yeah. And RM, one of the things he said, true love first begins with loving yourself. Yes. And I wrote it down. I stopped the video, and I was like, we are actually filming a podcast episode about this tomorrow. So the fact that this is something all over the world people are dealing with, even BTS, RM, who's the leader, who is
the biggest band in the world, literally
is dealing with this. So I think that, like you said, we're openly talking about this now, and this is something that people should really take in consideration, is already a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and 100%. Be easy on yourself. Like, be easy on yourself. Like, look, self-love is a journey. Like, I can't tell you, like, I mean, ask my friends. It's like, self-love has been such a hard thing for me over the years. And, I don't know everyone else's journey, but like, some days are better than others. And I think that I've come a long way, but it's like, I still know that I'm going to have some bad days, and I'm going to have some bad moments, and that we have to be easy on ourselves, because we're constantly evolving, and like, all we can do, like, we can know that there's a filter now on, that's the new rule, whatever. But like, at the end of the day, we got to be good with ourselves. We got to be able to like look in the mirror and be like, dude, I'm beautiful. And like, whether it's writing mantras for yourself, whether it's, just like journaling, getting to know yourself, like, you have to be good with you, because like, that at the end of the day, all you have is you.
Yeah. And,
totally.
And be your own best friend, which I feel like is the hardest thing to do, because this is even note to self. If I look at myself in the mirror one day, I've criticized myself, I don't know how many times, right? I'm like, oh my God, like my arm is like this, or oh my God, my stomach's hanging out of my pants, or I don't like how my boobs are like, one's over here and one's over there, or whatever. Like,
relatable.
Like, yes. This is me being totally honest with myself. And some days I'm super mean to myself, and I kind of dwell in that. Like, I know I catch myself being mean to myself, and I'm like, I still just let it happen. Yeah. But I feel like if we tell ourselves or remind ourselves, like, would you say this to your best friend? You wouldn't. So why do you have to be so mean to yourself?
That's funny. I do. I do
note
similar.
to self.
Yeah, I say like the inner child. Like it's like if you were talking to like a younger version of yourself or just a child, like you wouldn't be like, ugh, what are you wearing? Like you look fat today. Like you'd be like, you look so beautiful. Like you would say like the most encouraging things, but same thing as like a best friend. Exactly. It's like, so why do we do that to ourselves? Like
I was just
why?
gonna say, why do we do it to ourselves?
It's
Because
so
it's totally
mean.
the same thing, right? And that's the thing too. Like if my friends are sending me a picture and if they think they should post and they're like, oh, I look so ugly, which I'm like, no, you don't. You look perfect. Stop saying that. So then why to myself do I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, my arm, oh, my this, blah blah blah. And I mean, it's I've tried to stop doing that for sure in quarantine because. Again, you're home.
Can't.
The mirror's right there in my room.
Yeah.
Like it's the first thing I look at when I wake up, when I walk past to the bathroom. So I think that's definitely something too everyone should really work on is to talk to yourself how you would talk to your best friend or just to be your own hype man. I always say that.
Totally.
Be your own biggest hype man because if you're not going to be a hype man for yourself, no one else is going to be because it's how you talk about yourself to other people too. So
yeah, of course, and it affects any other relationships that you have as well. I mean, how many times Racquel before the episode was saying how, you know, you can't love anybody else before you love yourself, and I know it's like the most cliche thing to say, right? But even in my case where it's like before I got engaged, before I met my fiance, I had that moment to myself where I was like, I was finally working this job, I was getting rewarded at the job, and because of all that, those steps that I took to kind of change my lifestyle a little bit, I would sit with myself and I was fine with myself. Like before that, I would always find distractions, like Chelsea said earlier, where it was like, I either want to go out and party or I want to go have drinks. And like, I would always find things to distract myself rather than deal with myself. So now that we've had all this time, we have no other choice but to deal with ourselves, right? So
yeah, that's so true. And I think to be honest, it is a bit of a blessing. Like I mean, one thing that I've really been practicing in quarantine is like to be grateful. And it's like, what are you grateful for? And I'm honestly always like, I'm honestly really, obviously this is a horrible time and so many awful things are going on in the world right now. But like, you know, aside for that, don't wish that upon anyone. But like, I feel I'm trying to be positive about it where I'm like, I'm just grateful for this time. I'm grateful for this time where I can be by myself, where I can like, I've never given myself this sort of self-love and just like, getting to know myself, sitting with myself and just doing that work that I feel like we all should be trying to do. So I think if anything coming out of quarantine, like it has been a bit of a blessing for sure.
One thing I want to ask you both, and of course everybody listening as well, I'm curious to know everyone's thoughts, is when we say we have to be nice to ourselves and kind of take those steps, whether it's writing your accomplishments, like I was talking about this last week, write down things that you're proud of that you've done to make yourself feel good about yourself. You know, take that time. But you obviously have to commit to making the time to do the work for yourself. But sometimes, this is in my case, I look at myself in the mirror. This is like 2 weeks back. I look at myself in the mirror and I hate how I look like that day. I guess like, what do you think is the best way to manage going forward? Because sometimes you have to make steps. So for example, I ended up joining a gym with one of my friends and I'm really liking the workouts there and now I'm feeling better. So it doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, I'm not embracing myself 5 pounds heavier, but I know that I feel better when I'm 5 pounds lighter. Like I mean, you get what I'm saying? Like it's kind of tough to, it's not that I don't love myself, but I know that I feel better when I'm working out or when I'm, you know, doing something that's good for my body.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think at the end of the day, it's just doing things that make you feel good. Like one of my best friends, she always tells me, she's like, you need to always just do things that light you up. If you don't want to work out today, don't work out. Don't force yourself to work out because you feel like you need to. But like, you know, but if working out every day or every other day makes you feel good, you should do it. If eating the right foods, like, you know, lean into what makes you feel good because that's only going to light you up, you know? And as long as it's coming from a place where you're just like, I'm doing this for myself and no one else.
I think we know our bodies the best, and especially me and Natasha both grew up competitively dancing, so I feel like I'm very in tune with my body. Something's off, I'm like, all right, what's happening here? But I mean, yeah, it's the same thing. Like I was dealing with a bunch of health issues last year, so I couldn't really work out, and it totally affected my mental state and everything. I just didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel good. And in quarantine, honestly, is when I finally started being able to work out again consistently, slowly but surely. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. You know your body the best. And if you're not that if you're not happy with something, but starting to work out and get some sort of physical activity in is the easiest thing you can do to kind of start clearing your head. And working out, you're burning calories, you're gonna get tired, you're gonna have an endorphin, so you're gonna feel better. I mean, one of my best friends, she started working out right when, like, going heavy with working out, I think right when quarantine was like had just started, and she's lost probably like 50 pounds, 40 pounds, and she feels so great. She's so happy. You can tell she loves herself, and it's just like the purest, happiest thing to see, and I'm so proud of her for doing it. And she's inspired me and everyone else around her. We're doing all these fitness challenges, and I mean, it's little things. Not saying you need to go, work out and lose 40 pounds, but just little wins, like Natasha said, writing down what you're proud of yourself you've accomplished, whether it's being on a red carpet or eating healthy today. Write it down so that way you can kind of process that you're doing something for yourself and you're making yourself happy.
I think and I like what you said about celebrating the little wins, because I think no matter what, something that like really helps with me with just sort of like confidence and self-love is when I have goals that I accomplish. So it's like, but it could be small goals. So in quarantine, that's been a big thing for me, is like writing down things that I want to accomplish, whether it is like, okay, today I'm going to try not to eat sugar. And it's for me, and I'm going to work out 4 times this week, or I'm going to, whatever it is. Like, I think being able to check off those goals for yourself, it's just a good feeling. No matter what, it just comes from a place of like, okay, I feel like I'm valuing myself and what I know makes me feel good.
I'm going to do that. I told myself, I was like, I'm going to go to the gym Monday through Friday this week. So if I can cross that off the list, I'll feel so much better.
You know what's good too? What's been a new thing me and my friends have been doing? We'll like write a letter to ourselves, and it'll be like a month in the future. And we'll say like, Dear Chelsea, like I'm so happy with where I'm at right now. Like, and we'll just like list like all the things that we want to accomplish that month. And so it'll be like, I'm so happy I found that apartment that like that's so sunny and has all the, is ton of windows and is right off the Venice Canal, or whatever it might be. Like, very specific about what you want to basically manifest into your life. And it's been so powerful for me, because I'll go back a month later, and you can do this, you can do it a year out, you can do it 3 months, whatever. But like, I'll go back and read it, and I'll be like, oh my, it's such a good way of being like, wow, I really am checking myself. I really did accomplish so much in the last month, and I feel good about that. I feel good about myself.
I like that tip. We got to do that, Racquel.
Yeah. We need to do that, totally. Oh my gosh, we totally need to do that. Wow. I love that.
My last question for you, Chelsea.
Yeah.
What are some of the books that you recommend that you were saying earlier that you've been reading?
Oh my gosh, that actually is the biggest thing. One of the biggest takeaways in quarantine is, which I've never done before. And I know reading's so important and knowledge is obviously so important, but I've never maybe just like had the time to do it. And I've made sure I make myself right now, until things get really busy, but I'm trying to read at least an hour a day. So I'm like trying to just like fill myself with these books that, but my favorite book that I've literally recommended to everyone is, I love Gabby Bernstein. I think she's incredible. And so The Universe Has Your Back is the best. Super Attractor, any of her books, but those are the 2 that are my favorite. What else? Untethered Soul by Michael Singer is pretty incredible. It's a lot about like the voice inside your head. So like that's like we know there's always like this ongoing voice, and it's like, that's not us though. That's this thing that like drives us a little bit crazy. It's always happening. It's kind of learning how to sort of tame that voice in your head. What else?
Oh, I need to read that one.
That one's one of my favorite books. I've read it like 3 times because it's so good. What else? Untamed, Glennon Doyle, I just read, is really good. I don't know if you guys have read that one yet. Everyday Grace by Marianne Williamson is really good too. What else? I know I'm missing so many.
These are all good though.
They're so good.
I've seen these. I think I downloaded one of them too, but I never ended up getting around to it either. So,
Universe Has Your Back. If you're gonna start anywhere, go do that one. I think it has helped me through quarantine.
Great.
Those are great recommendations. Chelsea, can you text me all these titles, because we can put them in the bottom of like the description for YouTube.
For sure.
So we'll totally do
Chelsea's
that.
Rex.
Yes.
I got you.
Yay.
The book club.
Oh my God,
Chelsea's book club.
I'm so happy you got to be on this episode, and we really hope that whatever you take away from this episode, a little, even if it's a little snippet, it's just to be nicer to yourself, self-love, and to really try and find something that makes you happy. So we can all go into 2021 with some happiness and positivity. Yeah.
And if you're having a rough day, be gentle on yourself and slide into our DMs because we'll give you some words of wisdom. And we'll tell you you're beautiful because you are. Totally.
Charles, thanks so much for being on this
guys.
episode. And of course, you guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, ring the bell on YouTube, follow us on all of our podcasting sites. What is it? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube.
Do it.
We're on everywhere.
Got 'em all.
Do it.
And where can we find you, Chelsea?
Yeah, you can find me. Social media is at Chelsea_Briggs on Instagram and Twitter. Come follow me. I'll follow you back. Yo.
Yes.
Yo.
And Chelsea. Yo. Here we say peace, love, and unicorns. So peace, love, and unicorns, guys. We will see you next time.
Bye.